Hi there. I'm excited to share this with you. I'll be releasing one chapter of my first book every week until the entire story is complete. You can listen while you're working, driving, or just kicking back in your favorite spot. Some chapters will be short, others a bit longer, but every one of them is free to enjoy. If it's not your thing, that's totally okay, no hard feelings. But if you like it, feel free to tune in each week or even share it with a friend. Can't wait for the next chapter? No problem. Scan the QR code on your screen to purchase the full book on Amazon. Happy listening.
Chapter 7. Clarification. Ring ring, ring ring. The phone sounds, putting an end to Chad's sleep. It takes him a second to get his wits about him and realize that he needs to answer it. Only 5 rings are allowed before the ever-faithful answering machine picks up on Chad's behalf. Hi, you have reached the home of the... Chad's own voice snaps him into reality, and he quickly reaches over to get the phone and push the talk button. Still a little groggy, Chad holds the phone down for just a second as he scours the room, with blurry vision, trying to locate the time. 8 a.m. Wow, where did the night go? Chad wonders. And who is calling this early? That mental question causes Chad to remember that he has not yet answered the phone completely. Quickly, he pulls the phone up to his ear. Trying his best impersonation of someone who is awake, Chad says, "Salutations and God bless. Oh, I'm sorry, I did not mean to catch you asleep. I know you tend to get up early, so I thought it was okay." A familiar voice declares, "Morning, Pastor." Chad responds, "You're good, it's perfectly fine. What can I do for you?" "Well, you see, Chad. First, I want you to know that concerning that thing we talked about, I personally still feel the same way as I stated in my office." The pastor asserts while trying to maintain a cloak and dagger vagueness because of the subject matter. "Are we free to talk about this now?" Chad instantly perks up a bit as his full attention has now been sucked in as if by a gravitational pull. Yeah. Yeah. Chad replies as he adjusts himself to a more attentive position. He starts to think about yesterday and all that God told him. He knows he needs to tell his pastor that he is going to follow through with what he believes he heard and let God take care of the outcome. "Good," the pastor declares. "Although my opinion has not changed, I have been wrestling with what I told you all day and all night. I have this feeling like I should not have said something that I said or something, just a feeling of unease. I believe God may be dealing with me, and I realized something. Did you know that I thought you were coming in to accept your calling as a pastor?" "No, sir," Chad respectfully proclaimed. "Well, I did." He continues, "I have always thought that you would pastor at the ministry and have been chomping at the bit, waiting for you to hear the call and come forth. You recall that I have suggested it several times, but when you told me each time that God had not said so, I backed off. What I realized is that I backed off because I trust your relationship with God. I trust it so much that I was ready and willing to allow you to pastor at the church and even help you find your own church to pastor if you needed. I know that you can hear from God and won't corrupt His word for your benefit. I would have put other souls under your watch with no problem. But when you said what you said yesterday, I was thrown for a loop. I just wasn't expecting that. I'm being discreet on purpose here. You know I don't trust the phone lines." Sincerity and emotion drip from his words as he speaks. "I guess what I'm trying to say is that you need to listen to God no matter what He is telling you. I trust you to be over groups of His people, and I trust you to seek God and get a real answer from Him. Don't get me wrong, I'm still hoping you will seek and find out that you heard wrong and He actually said be a superb pastor instead of the other thing, but either way, you have to do His will. And I will be here for you no matter what." Words temporarily fail Chad. He stands in awe of how God can change the course of a man's heart and bring encouragement even through those who may not want to encourage. Finally, it is happening. What Chad is hearing from God and what is going on around him are lining up to make one straight path. Chad doesn't know the exact destination, but at least he knows it is from God. The silence becomes a little much for his pastor. "Chad, are you there? Did I lose you?" He puts forth with uncertainty. "I'm sorry. I'm here, Pastor." Chad answers, "We really need to meet again if possible. God dealt with me last night, and before you get your hopes up, it was not in favor of our previous conclusion. Can we get together so I can fill you in?" "Sounds great." The pastor expresses, "I have openings this morning and an opening this evening. What do you prefer?" "As soon as possible." Chad avouches, "Well, when you get dressed and such, just come on over. I'm already at the office." They dispense pleasantries and exit their conversation. Elsewhere in the city, a sinister conversation takes place between three aspiring gangsters looking to make a name for themselves. "We just joined, thanks to Tolley, but we can't stay bottom feeders. Right now, no one even recognizes our greatness. A robbery here, a purse snatching there, and other such activities have not helped us at all." Mark's raspy voice oozes with disdain for his current position. It was Mark who had convinced the others to join that really bad gang and taught them everything they know about actual crime. Mark wants to be more than a common lackey. Just like he rules over Reggie and Phil, Mark knows he has a future as a leader of the gang. "So what are you suggesting?" inquires Phil. The jewelry on his neck and hands shimmer. It helps him feel more upper class and important. Phil is willing to do whatever Mark wants, as is Reggie. It is Phil's desire to just serve under Mark until he reaches the top. He hopes that his service to Mark from these humble beginnings will fortify him a position as right-hand man. "I have a plan that will benefit us in two ways. We are going to burglarize the weapon max," Mark discloses. "You know how good I am with guns, so having guns will play to our advantage, plus we will give all of the excess weapons and guns to the rest of the gang. They will have no choice but to take notice of us then." "I'm not trying to be funny, man, but that's brilliant. I can see that working out well. When we gonna hit?" queries Reggie. His voice is deep, but his motives are shallow. Reggie is the type of guy who just wants to have fun. So much so that he has decided that his happiness is more important than the lives of others. Unlike Phil, who looks up to Mark, Reggie is only following Mark for the fun of it. "Well, first we need to stake the place out for a couple of days and find out what is the best time to take action," Mark answers. Reggie expresses his excitement. "I hope it's soon, because I can't wait to see you back in action. Ever since the cops took your last gun, we have just been doing petty stuff. I'm ready to kick it up a notch." The next day, Chad is finally putting the finishing touches on the white mask that he intends to use while he is in superhero mode. He feels the need to make his outfit all white despite his own objections to sticking out like a sore thumb. White is noticeable in both daytime and nighttime. People will often turn their attention to someone wearing all white. According to Chad's postulation, stealth and silence are two of the most important traits he must have in order to survive as a superhero, but he is not willing to argue with God about it. Truth be told, he would not even be in this position if it were not for God, so he feels that he has no right to tell God how to get the job done. It's time for Chad to move forward, which means that it is time for the white suit that he has crafted to be donned. Training may have been difficult, but nowhere near as difficult for him as coming up with a costume. True, he listened to God for the basics, but being able to learn to sew and use resources not commonly at his disposal was quite a burden. Because of this, the overall outfit looks like it was put together rather than being a well-designed unit. The mask, for example, is a modified version of a ski mask and bandana combination. Just at the nose, the ski mask is cut off, and sewn onto the bottom to replace it is the white bandana, which hangs bandit style. It creates a triangle that covers the bottom of his face but is also movable, to allow him to breathe more freely than breathing through the ski mask material. His shirt is just a form-fitting, free-moving, long-sleeved white shirt. He covers his entire upper half with a sleeveless white hoodie. The white of the shirt is slightly different from the white of his hoodie, which is slightly different from his gloves. The gloves were purchased white in color and are designed for police officers. These gloves combine hand protection with the sensitivity to still experience the sensation of touch. The gloves not only conceal the skin on his hands but are needle-proof, glass-proof, and allow him the ability to know what he is putting his hands on. The police use this model of glove to search prisoners because of that sensitivity. His white belt is fixed to the waist of his loose-fitting white cargo pants and has a hook on the side to allow him to hang his meteor hammer. That way, he can carry it everywhere and still have both hands free. The lightweight material of the pants moves and breathes freely so that his martial arts style can be used to its fullest. This was also the reason for removing the sleeves from the hoodie. Even with the sleeves removed, the hoodie outweighs every other article of the outfit. Chad decides that he should wear the hoodie zipped up, at least halfway, so that there is no way it can interfere with the use of the meteor hammer. The adornments of the outfit all line up with his reason for becoming a hero in the first place. On the back of the hoodie is a golden embroidered cross. Likewise, the chest of his shirt, which will be covered when the hoodie is closed, and both sleeves have the same design. The pants have the design on both back pockets, and the mask has a golden cross just above the brow line between the eyes and extending down the bridge of the nose area. Now all he needs is practice. Of course, Chad has practiced in his outfit before, being careful that Karen was not around, but he has never practiced with everything including the mask since the mask was just completed. He keeps the entire outfit in the bottom area of his dojo. He actually keeps all his superhero gear, notes, and paraphernalia in that area. It's not just to hide it from Karen but also from everyone else. Having his identity remain secret is very important to Chad. He has no desire to be arrested or be hunted down in his personal life, so having the mask means a lot to Chad. It is the last piece to a puzzle that has been building all his life. It's time to get started, and all the chips are in place as far as Chad can see. All I need now is a name, something that strikes fear into my opponents or emphasizes my excellent use of the meteor hammer. Chad says aloud to himself as he makes his way out to the dojo. It was the perfect day to complete his work on the outfit. Karen has been gone all day shopping for various things and still has some visitations that she needs to make to some relatives. He places the mask on his face and looks at his reflection in a family room television. The image is poor quality, but it is enough to get Chad a little excited. "I'm Meteor Hammer Man," he says in an altered gruff voice. No, wait. "I'm White Deathbringer." Not so sure about that one. Chad continues to think of names that could be suiting for his alter ego as he continues his journey to the dojo. Reaching for the door of the dojo, Chad realizes that he still has the mask on. Ah, man. Haven't even started the job yet, and I'm already making mistakes. I can't let anyone see me going into the dojo or my house wearing any of my outfit. Oh well. God, protect me and my identity, please. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. At this point, the only thing Chad can do is pray that God will cover for his mistake. Quickly, he snatches off the mask, ensconces it, and enters the safety of his dojo. The ball and chain. No, that's terrible. Chad laughs. Once inside the dojo, Chad immediately gets the full costume and puts it on. Sure, he can see that some of the whites are not as bright as others, but it somehow does not seem that important to him. He is excited because he finally gets to see the whole thing, as it is and on his body. That excitement helps to minimize any small imperfections. Now for the real test. He says with a hidden smile, as if all the other tests were not real. Chad takes a stance and just stands for a while, reveling in how cool it all is. He realizes, as the meteor hammer hangs at his side, that a dream that he had never dared to dream could be real has actually become true. His excitement boils over into his first few movements. He starts light with hands-free punches and kicks, then moves to flashier techniques. His goal is to see if the meteor hammer will fall off during regular combat. Chad gives it all he has and the meteor hammer stay faithful to its position. Knowing those limits could be the difference between life and death. Once Chad is satisfied with his weapon's stability, he grabs his weapon and starts using all the techniques that God allowed him to create while recovering. Chad does each move while watching to see if the outfit will hinder his movements or the use of his weapon. Head buster. No. That sounds more like a villain. Chad thinks. What? Now? But I'm practicing. Okay, nevertheless. Chad calms down and retreats to the bottom area of the dojo where he prays so often. The area seems bigger to him. He has been training so much lately that most of the equipment he usually keeps in the storage area is out in the dojo. There on the floor, however, is the tan-colored comforter that he has used so much lately as he tries to hear from God. Chad takes his position, face down on the blanket, preparing himself to listen. What should we talk about this time? Yeah. I have already started thinking about that. I was thinking of something like the finisher or crime beater or... Okay, well just tell me what you want it to be. Chad waits to see what God will say. He waits and hears nothing. Chad has been here before. There are times when God will let people know that he wants something specific but makes them work or wait to find out what it is. While waiting, Chad's mind is still going forth, trying to think of a name for his alter ego. He knows that if he finds the right one, God will likely let him know that it is the chosen moniker. Warfighter, the Grinder, Ender, your end game, the end game, game stopper. What do you mean I'm not in the right vein? I'm trying to come up with something that is cool and lets them know not to mess with me. You know, like Bruiser, Girl Power, and Sunbolt. Those are cool names. Okay, well, where should I get it from? God suddenly goes silent again, but for some reason, Chad goes back to the incident that occurred in the alley. All of a sudden, he feels the disdain of the three perpetrators as they insult and strike him. His emotions start to take over, and his blood pressure rises slightly, causing him to feel flush. He struggles to keep himself focused on waiting for the voice of God. Suddenly, bursting through all his controls and barriers, he hears. Some hero you are. What were you supposed to do, preach us to death? Take that, you Jesus freak. Chad's head turns faintly as he sees the strike coming at his face once again. It was almost real. Chad reels his mind in and gathers himself, but again. Nothing worse than a preachy savior who can't even save himself. You're a freak. You hear me? Nobody believes that nonsense anymore, except you, you freak. You Jesus freak. Chad thinks about it over and over. How dare they insult God? The beating was nothing compared to the fact that they got away with insulting God. Of course I believe in you, God. I would gladly stick out like a sore thumb for you. I don't care if they call me a freak for your sake. I would wear that insult like a badge of honor so long as it was for your name's sake. Suddenly, the memories return, but this time, his emotion does not respond as it replays over and over in his mind. Take that, you Jesus freak, that you Jesus freak, you Jesus freak. You Jesus freak, Jesus freak, Jesus freak. Jesus freak. Suddenly, Chad understands why he is in the prayer room, and his dilemma is solved. I would have chosen something a little more awe-inspiring, but nevertheless, your will, not mine. Chad feels his release from prayer and stands up. Jesus freak, huh? His eyes set toward the stairs leading to the dojo. Chad is now officially ready to go. He has his costume, his skills, and now his name. There is nothing holding him back from a life of crime fighting. Chad's excitement level is through the roof. He is still nervous, but with everything seeming to go in his favor, that nervousness is greatly reduced. His enthusiasm far outweighs any trepidation that has presented itself. I'm going out tonight. Chad says. Oh my. What will I tell Karen? When will I tell Karen? It is about time because there is no doubt that I will be doing this now. But maybe I should at least go out once and be sure that I am sure before we have that discussion. Chad reasons in his mind. Elsewhere in the city. You see that? We got the schedule down, but we also need to know what the response time is. Tonight, we will set off the alarm on purpose to see how long it takes the cops to show up. Mark announces. His cliché abandoned warehouse surroundings fit perfectly with the intent of his planning and scheming. In his hand is a single sheet of paper. Written there is a list of times that the owner and/or employees of the unsuspecting Weapon Max come and go. They have been taking turns with watching the place to see when the first person arrives, what patterns of behavior are consistent, and what time the last person leaves. It was arduous but necessary. The last thing they would want to do is get caught or botch things up, making them look as if they don't even deserve to be part of that really bad gang. Reggie inquires. Are we going all together, or just one of us? I don't mind going to do it by myself, Mark. Send me. Phil declares with a smile on his face. It isn't that Phil isn't scared to get caught, but this is the least dangerous assignment that has come up in a while. Phil has been waiting for a chance to show Mark that he has initiative, but he did not want to jump out on some certain death type of assignment. This one was perfect. Very low risk of getting caught since all he has to do is set off the alarm and hightail it to a safe position. Unless the police or someone else is right in the area, no one will be able to catch him. No. We all go. This time, we will post up on all sides, which means we all go together. I don't want to risk missing someone's arrival and messing up the plan. I will set the alarm off while you guys keep watch. Then I will break back to my observation point. His raspy voice carries through the warehouse and even reverberates inside of some of the empty metal barrels. Just in case I have not been clear about this. Mark continues with a dramatic pause. We are doing this to make it big. This is the next step in our evolution. We cannot afford for there to be any mess-ups, not in planning, not in execution, and not in the escape. I'm not trying to be funny, but I'm sure we are all aware of how important this is to you. I mean us. And none of us intend on going to the slammer anytime soon. Reggie interjects. Mark thinks for a second, drawing his forefinger to his chin as he scans his two running buddies. I just have to be sure, that's all. It is obvious that Mark is thinking hard about the position he is putting himself in. Assessing the risks versus the possibility of gain. It would be easy to assume that he is trying to figure out if his associates are able to be trusted with such an assignment. Phil affirms. We got you. We got your back. A slight glimmer shines from his mouth as the light reflects off one of his gold teeth. I know. I wouldn't have you two with me if I thought you couldn't handle it. Of course, if you can't handle it, you should let me know now. Mark states with a slightly menacing tone. Later that night, Chad prepares himself to go out for his first hero run. His excitement is evident and hard to hide. So much so that Karen, who is home now, wonders what is going on. She restrains herself because she wants him to stay in his good mood. Lately, he has been so concerned about everything that he has not been quite acting like his normal, joyful self. It was kind of pleasant for her to see him getting back to what she considers normal. Honey. Chad shouts. He makes sure to keep his voice in an ordinary tone so as not to arouse suspicion and awaken any question that he feels are best left unanswered for now. If he can control the conversation and give the right amount of information, then he just might be able to escape the inquiry that could cut off all his plans. The trick is to seem as if he is willing to give the information. People tend to not want information that is given to them freely but seek after information that they are being denied. It's just human nature to want to know. Huh? Karen sweetly replies. She notices that he seems to be getting ready to leave but is waiting for him to say something. It would be completely unlike her husband not to say anything before leaving, so she just waits. Remember I told you I had been meeting with the pastor about a project that God has for me to do? Chad inquires and pauses. Yes, I remember. Karen says while drawing the conclusion that his leaving will have something to do with that. Chad has not told her what the project is. He was very general but let her know that it would be big and require quite a bit of time and some late hours from time to time. Because of Chad's character, Karen trusts him not to lie on God. There are many things that Chad will be playful with, but God is not one of them. She knows that if Chad was going to do something underhanded, he would not use God as the scapegoat, so she does not worry about matters that concern God. Furthermore, she knows that God has standards and would never tell Chad to go cheat on her or steal from others or any other immoral activity that could cause him trouble. I'm going to start some of the research and possibly perform a test or two to prepare for it. Because I haven't done it before, I am not sure how long it will take. You can wait up if you want or not, it's up to you. I will probably call you if it gets too late, to let you know where I stand. Chad says in his nonchalant voice as he gathers some things and heads toward the door. Pray for me. Pray that I have success for the Lord's sake. With that, he reaches for the door. He is successful. Or is he? Excuse me. Karen squawks as she appears at the end of the hallway farthest from the door. Chad keeps it cool outside, but inside, his everything drops as he prepares for the conversation that he has been avoiding ever since he received his new assignment. Yes, darling? Chad responds. Are you forgetting something, kind sir? Karen sasses. A calm waves over Chad as he realizes that he had slipped up but not in the area that he dreaded. Chad always gives his wife a kiss just before leaving the house, no matter where he is going. In his excitement and his attempt to be clandestine, he neglected to do that which he should know to do. He walks down the hall to where Karen stands with her hands on her hips, obviously faking an attitude and waiting for her kiss. Chad embraces her gently. I'm sorry, baby. Had a lot on my mind. He renders her his love offering. Is that better? And holds her for a second. She purposely melts in his arms and says, Okay. You can go. Chad kisses her one more time on the forehead while they embrace. He flashes a sweet and charming smile and walks back down the hall and through the garage door. The car is already filled with his gear. Chad gets in the car and makes his way to the place where it all began. Having every intention of testing his skills and calling, Chad figures that the last 2 times he went to the alley, there was some form of crime, so naturally, it would be a good place to start. Chad has been thinking through keeping his secret identity. He knows that he cannot wear his outfit while in his car or it will be a dead giveaway. He even reasons that he can't use the car to change or someone may see him get out of it on his way to a crime. He decides that it is best to wear light clothes that are easily covered up by his outfit. If he had worn clothing that he had to take off, he would have to leave it somewhere or carry it with him. But if he carries it with him, it would definitely be extra weight and could possibly get in the way while he is fighting. Instead, Chad chooses to wear lightweight jersey pants and a stretch-fit workout shirt that don't need to be taken off and will allow him to move freely. On top of that, he decides to park his car a couple of blocks from his work area, the place where he will be fighting crime, and just change in some dark area along the way. There is so much to think about that Chad is nervous that he has not planned well enough. Chad starts the car and hits the road. He makes it a couple of blocks away from the alley. He parks at a convenience store that is open 24 hours. Chad has his uniform rolled up and tucked into his shirt. He figures that if anyone does see him, they may not know it is him because they will think that his stomach is larger than what it is. True, it's not the best secret identity keeper, but it beats hiding behind a pair of glasses. Chad gets out of his car, and the wind whizzes by him. It gently strokes his facial skin and brings a slight cool with it. The night is not cold at all, but the cool breeze makes it a perfect temperature. The moon is big, and its light is shining down on everything. The night still seems dark, but the light shimmers off everything. Chad can't help but think that he picked the perfect night to combat the evils of a depraved society. It may just be his excitement about his first day on the job, but the night seems to beg Chad to come out and enforce the ways of justice. He closes and locks his car door and starts his journey toward the infamous alley. His walk is brisk, and there is a gleam in his eye. What shall this night bring? This question finds many answers in Chad's mind as he makes his way to his destination. It is a good thing too. Chad may not know it, but it is very important that he goes through those scenarios so that he will be prepared and know what action he will take in a given situation. When in the situation, there is little to no time to make a decision on a course of action and implement it. Chad begins to look for some place dark and concealed that he can change into his outfit before getting to the alleyway. For some time, he struggled with whether he should dress first or just wait until he finds a crime then get dressed. Both ideas have their merit. If he waits to get dressed, then he could walk around inconspicuously and get a view of what's going on without drawing the undue attention that his white outfit would draw. Dressing like a hero carries with it certain expectations. People expect a hero to do something in their time of need or in the face of criminal activity, whereas if he were to look like a regular citizen, he could find the crime and assess the best attack plan, then go get dressed and carry out his mission. The disadvantage, however, is the possibility of getting mugged himself and having to fight, possibly exposing his secret identity. Not only so, but what if there is nowhere safe or close to change clothes while an urgent crime is happening? Then he would either have to let the crime continue or once again risk his secret identity by getting involved. Getting dressed before scoping for derelict deeds may have a few disadvantages, but in the overall scheme of things, it is the better and less risky course. Plus, when he sees a crime, he can act immediately or delay if he chooses to. Chad contemplates these things and more as he continues his search for a good place to change into his outfit. In front of him there are plenty of places shaded by the shadows formed by the moon's glow. Most of them, however, are not fit for Chad's particular needs. Chad needs a place that he can walk into one way, get changed, and exit from some other direction. This is necessary in case anyone sees him go in and waits for him to come out. If he goes in and comes right back out in his outfit, it would be suspicious at the least, but if he goes out another way, it would be less likely that someone could piece together his goings and his comings. Nothing is foolproof, but Chad has done his due diligence and decides to leave the rest up to God. Chad looks to his right and sees some vacant lots all lined up. They are remnants of businesses shut down a long time ago. Now they serve as a border between the lawless zone and the innocent citizens of Bethlehem, Connecticut. The buildings can hardly be considered buildings or structures anymore. Mostly there is rough and unbalanced-looking land covered in grass bushes and even some trees sprinkled in here and there, big, thick, strong trees that were once probably just landscaping but now have prominence in the area. Every so often, the landscape pushes up with half-crumbling sections of wall that refuse to go down without a fight. However, they are no match for the vines, moss, weeds, and greenery that have overtaken the exterior of everything there. It is almost impossible with few exceptions to find exposed areas of concrete. The area is shadowy but is not conducive to Chad's needs because it is too exposed. He then looks to the left, which is the general direction that he will be traveling to get to the alley. The street between the two sides is 4 lanes wide and serves as a divider between the two starkly different terrains. On the left there are abandoned buildings, but these are in much better condition. It is easy to ascertain what their intended purpose was when they still functioned. The plants are not allowed to grow as they please on the left side. It is a little unkempt at the moment, but it is obviously taken care of on a regular basis. Chad surveys it all, trying to find the most advantageous place to make his transformation. There are boards on most of the openings, such as windows and doors, so going inside to conduct his business is a far-drawn conclusion. However, the space between the buildings may hold the treasure that Chad seeks. He can go in on one side and come out on the other, but he would still need some form of cover to change behind. Chad walks up the street on the left-hand side, paying attention to his surroundings but also focusing on who or what is behind him. Chad sees no one now but must keep a very close watch. He makes sure to walk a good distance up the road so that anyone following would be easily noticed. Truth be told, no one really goes to this area known as the D-line. Some say the D means deserted, and others say it means dividing. Both descriptions are fitting. It is the dividing line between order and disorder, and it is deserted. Those who are upright citizens stay away from the D-line because they are afraid they may run across people from the lawless zone who intend to do them harm. Those from the lawless zone stay away from it because they would no longer be safe from police presence or jurisdiction. People drive by occasionally on their way to other places, but its stigma keeps most from even traveling the road. The police check the road at least once a day to make sure that the lawless zone does not attempt to expand itself. It is a very delicate balance. I think I have gone far enough, and no one seems to be around. Now, how about I try this passageway? Chad thinks as he approaches an opening between two of the buildings. Looking down the pathway, Chad sees no obvious places to conceal himself while he changes. It is very dark and shadowy but lacks anything of reasonable size to hide behind or between. The buildings are smooth-looking with no obvious protrusions for him to take advantage of. The closest thing to cover that he finds is a small metal trash can that was abandoned with one of the building. It is far too small, however, to provide adequate cover. Chad re-examines the path one more time, closely, before moving on to the next one. If one of the doors on either building is able to be opened, I could possibly hide behind it. Chad contemplates. The two buildings that border the passageway both have doors that lead inside. These were likely the doors used by employees to take out trash and perform other routine activities that would not need to be carried out in public view. Because of how dark it is, the doors are not discernible from afar. The light of the giant moon, however, causes them to appear to be slightly darker spot along their walls. They are not flush with the building, they sink in about 2 to 3 inches. This indention allows for shadow to fall on the door and keeps the moon's light at bay. The crisp breeze fills Chad's lungs and is refreshing. Chad is not sure that they are doors, but due to deductive reasoning, it is the only conclusion that he can come up with. And if nothing else, a closer inspection of the buildings can open other ideas for him. His steps sound off as he makes his way toward his destination. Chad hears his steps and forces himself to try and be quieter for stealth purposes. First, he attempts to walk slower, but realizes that he needs to maintain speed but reduce sound. Next is the ever-popular tiptoe, but this proves to not only be uncomfortable but extremely ineffective for speed and sound. Instead of the tiptoes, Chad tries landing on other parts of the foot and then carefully rolling forward to make his steps. His attempts to learn a new way of walking quickly brings him to his destination. Chad is so engrossed that he almost passes up the first door. Chad turns to the left and sees the shaded doorway. He cannot quite make out the finer points of the door or see the wood finish, but he can tell that it is there. His hand stretches forth, and his fingertips land on the cool surface of the painted metal. The paint is rough, or maybe it is a buildup of dirt deposits over the years. It being so dark, Chad cannot tell. He looks and feels around for a door handle, but has no luck. On the side of the door where the knob should be, there is a metal plate. His fingers rub across the cold steel plate and find some welding spots and screws that affix it to the door. He applies pressure to see if it will open, but it does not. Chad turns his gaze toward the door on the other side. It too is shadowed in darkness. Chad takes time to look in front of and behind himself to see if someone may be following him. Seeing nothing, he moves toward the door. The ground is firm beneath his feet but is also uneven in spots. He can't see it, but he can tell that the foundation is shifted, causing cracks and rises in the concrete. He reaches his hand out again to examine the door through touch. As his hand penetrates the darkness, it immediately finds itself on a round metal knob. Finally, he has found a doorknob. He attempts to twist it in both directions but finds it locked. Even knowing that it is locked, Chad continues to jiggle the knob as if it will give way to his determination. The knob is steadfast and holds its position firmly, however, Chad notices that the door itself shifts just a bit outwardly. Anything is worth a try, Chad says. He pulls on the doorknob, and the rest of the door willingly comes with it. As shadowy as it is on the street, the darkness on the other side of that door is over 3 times as dark. Chad's imagination takes over, and he can see something reaching out of the darkness, grabbing him and pulling him in. For just a second, a small sliver of fear wiggles down Chad's spine. Chad's rational mind kicks in, and he casts his fear aside as an irrational unease. The newly opened door not only exposes the darkness inside the building but also creates a long dark shadow in the alleyway. It is perfect. Chad takes out his outfit and puts it on piece by piece. The dark makes it more difficult than Chad anticipated to get dressed. I'm going to have to practice this with the lights off when this is over. Chad mumbles. Chad uses the shadow to escape to his destination. Up the street, around some corners, past some buildings, from one alleyway to another, Chad travels. Finally, the familiar smells, sights, and some new sounds stimulate his senses. The traffic is almost non-existent, and there are very few people walking the streets, one here or there every so often. Chad is glad there are few people out. Everyone he sees stares at him as if he were crazy or a spectacle. He quickly makes his way to the alley to see what nefarious deed is being performed under the cover of night. He looks down the alley, and at first glance, he sees nothing. He scans the scene again and still finds nothing. Chad decides to stand near the alley and wait for something to happen. He stands at the ready, waiting to pounce upon the first sign of trouble. Trouble, however, is a fickle mistress, and one never knows when she may show up, or when she may decline an invitation. Chad waits and waits, but nothing happens. After a while, he decides to expand his search for trouble to the streets on both sides of the alley. Still, he is unable to find any criminal activity lingering about. After 2 hours of patrolling, Chad starts to wonder if Karen is getting suspicious of his leaving. Chad looks at his watch and notices that it has been over 2 hours and he has not borne any fruit whatsoever for his trial run. Chad decides to just go home and try again some other time. The trip home is filled with thoughts, questioning yet again if this is the call that God has given him. Why didn't anything happen? How can it be so hard to find crime when you are looking for it? Is this what I am supposed to be doing for real? Should I really want crime to happen? Is that really proper? But how can I be a hero if there is no crime to fight? How can I possibly find the place where crime is going to happen or even is happening? Maybe I need to get a police radio or something to help. Well, when I go back out tomorrow, I will probably have better luck. I wonder if Karen is up. It is kind of late. I don't know, should I take this as some kind of sign that I was not supposed to be a hero? Well, I have been here before and the answer has always been that I should do this, so I will continue. But at this rate, this could take a large amount of my time. What if I had found an actual crime? How long would that have taken? Chad makes it home before he can finish considering all these questions, thoughts, and more. Fortunately for Chad, Karen is in the bed sleeping. Chad takes his outfit to the dojo and deposits it. He heads back into the house, and after preparing, he crawls into bed with Karen. She does not wake up, which is just as well for Chad. He goes to sleep knowing he would have to think things through in the morning. The next couple of nights, Chad goes out and tries the same thing and ends up with the same results. His resolve becomes shaken. Why would God tell him to do the job but then not provide a way for him to do the job? If he cannot find crime, he most certainly cannot solve crime or defend the weak. A new morning dawns. Chad wakes up tired and ready to go back to sleep this morning. In truth, it is not only the late nights that he is keeping up but also the discouragement that he feels from his lack of success. It is as if the dream that he was so close to realizing is being pushed farther and farther back and out of his reach. Was the point of it just to have him reach for it? This would not be the first time that God just wanted to see if someone were willing to do what he has instructed them to do. In Genesis, a book of the Bible, Abraham is told that he would have a son in his old age. He waits and waits for it to come to pass, almost to the point of absurdity. It was not until he turned 100 years old that the prophecy became true. He was so happy because he had finally received from the Lord that which was promised. But tragedy struck a little while later. God told Abraham to kill the son he had waited so long for, to sacrifice him on an altar on a mountain. Abraham did not want to but refused to disobey God. He took the lad up the mountain and tied him up like a sacrifice. He raised his dagger to plunge it into the body of every hope and desire that he ever had. It was at that moment that he heard the Lord say, "Stop." He told Abraham to do the lad no harm. In Abraham's willingness to sacrifice his son, God found him faithful and abundantly blessed Abraham and his descendants. Chad considers that this is possibly what is going on with him but wonders why God has not yelled stop just yet. Why not just tell him stop instead of meeting him with defeat or failure? Chad is breaking down. Finally, he does what he knows he should have done from the very beginning. He drags himself out of bed and goes to his prayer space to call upon the one from whom he had received his assignment in the first place. As Chad's knees hit the floor, his lips are already moving. In an audible monologue, he tells God the things that are most pressing on his mind and on his heart. Lord, I am not saying that I don't believe you told me to do this because I have done that way too many times. I realize that this is what you asked of me, and I will not turn away from that knowledge no matter what. I am tired of going around this same circle over and over, so I will stick to what I know. I know you told me to do this, so why, God? Why is this happening? You see me stretching my faith and accepting this assignment. God, I have the outfit made. I have done hours of practice. I talked to my pastor about it. I've even started going out looking for crime and in the same spot where I know that crime happens, but nothing. What am I supposed to think? What am I supposed to do? I am doing all that I know how to do. It is at that point that Chad realizes that he just went straight into his wish list and questions without praising God for all that he has done. In Psalm 100 it says, "Enter his gates with thanksgiving and his courts with praise. Give thanks to him and praise his name." This is what Chad tries to live by as it relates to his prayer time. He always starts off with praise and thanksgiving before he starts asking God for the various things that he desires or needs. God, like us, desires to be appreciated for the things he does and who he is. Chad truly appreciates the things God has done for him and is disappointed in the fact that he would forget to acknowledge God's goodness. He immediately switches to praising and worshiping God. As he gets into it, he is swept away by it. So much so he forgets that he was coming to God to get answers for his current situation. As the worship continues, it comes to a point where Chad is just sitting in the presence of God quietly. This also is a form of worship, especially in today's society where people have so many different things to spread their time on. Sitting in the presence of God is equivalent to spending time with a good friend just to be around them. In the silence, Chad begins to hear the voice of God. He listens in silence but tries to grasp what is being said with his mind and his heart. Chad thinks, "But I am doing only what you have told me to. I think I am anyway. Well, I was just trying to do what I know to do so that I will not be in disobedience. I don't want to make excuses as to why I did not at least try when I know I heard your voice. Of course, God. I will wait on you as long as it takes." Chad sits, receiving information from God until the information stops coming. He takes his time breathing it all in and attempts to make sure that he does not lose any of it. Information from God is a fleeting thing. The Bible makes reference to the enemy constantly attempting to take the words of God from the knowledge of anyone who comes in contact with it. In real terms, it comes across as if someone just forgets the information. This can be achieved by putting distractions in place as the word goes forth or providing urgent responsibilities to push the word out. When one is more concerned about relationships, bills, and the worries of life, it is easy to lose track of the word that has been received.